Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing okay. So today's video is going to be my review of Hope Nation. This is an anthology that was suggested to me by a friend of mine who works at our library at our school. And so she was a reader for the Taysha's list, which is basically like young adult literature, and so she had to read like thousands of books over the course of the year and give her suggestions, and this was one that she recommended. So this anthology is comprised of about 24 YA authors. They're pretty well-known names like Libba Bray. You have, Marie Lu, Nick Stone, Angie Thomas, Jason Reynolds, David Leviathan, tons of others. Some that I have heard of, some I have not heard of. And so it was edited by Rose Brock, who is the co-founder of the North Texas Teen Book Festival. I haven't gone to that specific book festival. I think last year was the first time I'd heard of it, and then something happened and I couldn't go because it was in Austin. I wanted to go this year, obviously, the Rona got us. This is the first really anthology that I've read as a fun read. Most of the time as an English teacher, I read anthologies all day, and pull out pieces that I really like or that I can teach. But I'm not one to kind of pick up a series of essays or poetry or anthologies like that. I haven't really been a fan of that kind of book structure, I guess, or genre, if you want to call an anthology a genre. But this collection was personal essays from each of these authors, and they really kind of go into this concept of hope. How they got it, how they lost it, how they got it again, what gives them hope. So each author kind of had their basic spin on it. So some of them are, older than me, so they were, coming of age in the like 80s or 90s or even like mid 2000s, or early 2000s. And so some of their stories dealt with like 9/11, or the aftermath of 9/11. A lot of them were discussing, the before and after of like the 2016 presidential election. And some of them were about moments in their life where they kind of had to understand what hope was. And so I really liked a lot of the essays. What I feel like for this particular anthology is that, or anthologies in general, is I feel like rating them is difficult, because I feel like I have to rate each individual essay by itself. Because throughout the anthology, throughout the book, there were a lot of stories that I really enjoyed, and then some that were just like, okay, like it was either really short or really contrite, or it just didn't jive well with me. Maybe because it wasn't, something that I could relate to, or I just didn't see, it didn't impact me as much as some of the other ones, just in the way that they did their story, but also what their story was. So some of my favorites was from Libba Bray. Hers, out of all of them, I really liked hers because it was talking about her, the car accident she had right after she graduated, and the journey that she had to go through because of the complete destruction that this had on her physically, but also psychologically. She was completely destroyed in this car wreck, like almost died. Lost her left eye, the way she made it seem was just like, oh my gosh, like you really felt for this girl. And not only in the physical, sense of it, but also how she dealt with it and how she dealt with her life completely changing, like after the wreck. You know, how she saw herself. And so of course, like I had to look her up, because I was like, okay, I need to see like what this chick looks like, because to me, like as I was reading this and reading her perception of herself, I was thinking like, man, this girl probably like had to have major reconstructive surgery, the whole nine. Like she lost her eye, her nose was smashed in, the whole nine. And when I went to go look at her pictures, now obviously this was like, years later, but you would never know. Like, you would never know. Like, she has like a little scar, I think, on her lip. If you look at pictures of this author, like, you would have never have known she doesn't have her left eye. It's one of those things, like your perception of yourself, it tends to be more harmful than the perception of other people of you. And so I thought that was really interesting for her to kind of look and show herself that way, and show how destructive like our inner voice is and can be. So I really I really enjoyed her story. The other one that I really enjoyed, again, this is from an author that I'm not too familiar with, Kate Hart. She was another one that I really liked, and it was just for the simple fact that she's such a cynic. And I really like the way that she did her essay. Like, most of them started out like, I don't know what to write, which is fine. It's whatever. But the way she structured her essay was a conversation with her shoulder cynic. So it's like the angel and the devil on your shoulder, but her shoulder cynic. And so she was basically having a conversation with herself, kind of trying to develop her understanding and her definition of hope and what this is. And it was humorous. It was an interesting way of writing it. And she basically comes to this conclusion, and her shoulder cynic's like, finally, like, you got to the conclusion. So I thought it was really interesting the way that she wrote it. Now, the other contributors wrote in like a narrative style. Like David Leviathan wrote more in a short story kind of format. But I really liked hers because it was very much a stream of consciousness that she was having, and it kind of reminded me of me, because I have those internal conversations with myself as I go through the day. So one of the other ones I liked, and this one, a lot of the authors I noticed are journalists. Or were journalists at some point, or in newscasting and stuff like that, which I thought was kind of interesting. But Howard Bryant's The Dreadful Summer of 1991 was really, I think, inspirational. Like, he talks about his summer internship where he was wanting to be a reporter, and he was having to apply to all these places, and he kept getting rejected. And he finally found a newspaper that would take him in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And so, of course, this is like white community, and Howard Bryant's black. And this one kind of struck me as just, oh my God, like I have these like what the hell moments in some of these stories, because it's just it's so disheartening to think that there are, and to know that there's people out there that just have no sense in their head whatsoever. So the editor that he interviewed with basically asked him if he had ever gotten any jobs because he's black, which, again, freaking inappropriate, first of all. And so he got the internship, and he struggled a little bit because nobody would give him the time of day. Nobody would talk to him and everything. And I'm just like, that had to be freaking miserable. But he contacted, or I think he contacted a journalist from the Washington Post, and he spoke to him, and he kind of gave him the best advice, not just for a journalist, but for life. He basically said, you're there to be a journalist, so be a journalist. Like, don't wait for somebody to go find to give you a story. You need to go find it yourself. And so he did that. Like, he went out and found stories. He researched. He you know, took stories to the editor and said, I want to write this, and was only concerned with the people who could make him better. And that was another piece of advice, is like, you need to surround yourself with people who will make you better, and don't care about anyone else, anyone that's going to bring you down, anyone that's intimidated by you. So I thought that one was a really good one. If coming from a teacher standpoint, I thought it was really interesting. And I think that would be a really good one to like show my kids who may need that kind of inspiration, so to speak. So I like that one. The last one that I really liked, and it was toward the end, was Iwi Gregorio. And she's a urologist who I guess got into YA literature after, you know, med school and being a doctor. But I thought her piece was really cool because it's like, it literally says in the title, not safe for work. And she basically talks about body image, but she's very frank about it. She is kind of clinical about it, but I think that's the point, because she kind of ends with this idea that everyone's body is different, but we're all kind of the same in the end. And so she talks about uncomfortable stuff. Like, I thought it was really refreshing that they added hers in here, because this anthology is meant to be something that, you know, young readers are going to read. And so I thought it was really refreshing that they added her stuff in when she talks about, you know, erectile dysfunction and having to have these hard conversations with these people, and her patients. And she doesn't really necessarily censor her language. Like, she's very like frank with it. And I really enjoyed that. So, and hers is all about accepting your body the way it is, and kind of seeing her journey in understanding that, because she never really did see her body as something that was normal. She had to go through this journey of med school to understand that her body is normal and being comfortable with herself. So that one I really like, just because of the taboo nature of it. Overall, I'd give this a solid 4 out of 5 stars. Again, I'm looking at it from the perspective of the whole anthology. I think that there are, again, some of the essays are better than others, just from a subjective standpoint. Like, either it was written well, the point of it came across very clearly. It wasn't preachy. I definitely pull this into my classroom. I'm the rebel teacher that I think that giving kids books that most probably would be uncomfortable giving them, not like I'm giving them 50 Shades of Grey by any means, but, you know, I think we don't give kids enough credit for being able to delve into something that's a little bit more uncomfortable or a little bit more out there. I like that the majority of the essays were about taking control of your own destiny, of your own responsibility, and being able to find a path and find hope. So Rose Brock stated in her introduction that hope is a decision. To me, I think saying that hope is a decision, I think that takes back the power, that someone else is not responsible for making you happy. You're the one that's responsible for making you happy, and that takes the power away from someone else and gives it back to you, as opposed to the other way around. So I really like that idea of hope being a decision. If you have not read this, I highly recommend you do. It's a really quick read. You can find it probably at your local library or Amazon. I found this again at my school library. Thanks, Carrie. So if you have not subscribed, please do like the video below, put a comment, let me know what you think, and we will see you guys later.